You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. My guest, Abdul Malik Okubaku, editor-in-chief, New Crusading Guide newspaper, just returned from his vacation. Samuel Neti George, the Honourable MP for Ningo Pram Constituency. Alexander Kwamina Afenyo-Markin is the Honourable MP for Efutu and Deputy Majority Leader. Kofi Bento is lawyer and Senior Vice President, Imani Africa. Now, let's go into some very specific matters arising from the developments in Parliament. Once again, let me start with you, Kofi. And the two politicians have raised issues that in the course of their submissions on these specific matters, which will be briefer, we will ask them a couple of questions on their positions that they take. But Kofi, the Constitution in Article 104 is very clear, isn't it? Why are we haggling over it?
Well, Samson, we are haggling over it because you say it's very clear, but there are possible interpretations when you add subsidiary legislation, including standing orders of Parliament. And I think, like we all know, people are playing to the interpretation that favors them. For those of us who are in the middle or we want, a neutral position, I honestly do think that there are two types of code.
But Kofi, sorry. You have just mentioned the Constitution, using the Constitution together with subsidiary legislation.
Yeah.
When we are using the Constitution in the manner that it's being used now, the standing order, if the standing orders are found to be contrary with the Constitution, you throw it away completely, isn't it?
Yes, you do, but who says it is contrary? Now, it is my view that we have arrived at a position where we need a Supreme Court interpretation of this matter, because each of those interpretations has some weight, all right? Each of those interpretations has weight. If we had time, I would explain to you, based on sequencing, why I think that the budget has not been approved. But I have enough room to accommodate those who argue that, oh, it has been approved. I actually made a post about the rescission being rescinded. So I foresaw these things happening. So we have to admit that there are compelling arguments on both sides. I just think that one of them is weaker. Be that as it may, we have entrenched positions on both sides. This is exactly why there is a Supreme Court. The standing orders and subsidiary legislation are part of our laws to the extent that they agree with the Constitution. So somebody has to argue that this is not in compliance or is not running alongside the Constitution. Then we can take it off. But I don't think that any of the other parties will agree to any other person's interpretation. And we've seen that play out already. So indeed, we may have to go to the Supreme Court and have this ironed out once and for all. I do have a view, and my view is that one of the arguments is weaker, but I think this matter should be solved by the justices of the court.
On that specific question, Article 104 says, except otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of majority of members present and voting, with at least half of the members of Parliament present. The Speaker shall have neither an original nor casting vote. Where the votes on any motion are equal, it shall be taken to be lost. It doesn't include the provision in the standing orders that says that the speaker, the deputy speaker, when they are presiding, does not loses only his casting vote and not original vote. Does it?
It doesn't. But something, rules of interpretation say you read a law as a whole. You read it together with others. So there are provisions made in other places, and there's reference, for instance, to the speaker. Okay, when you read it as a whole, I will disagree with Joe Wise when he says that he is not the speaker, because it's a position. So if you read the Constitution as a whole, and it says in certain places that when you sit as Speaker, this is the situation, it runs through. It runs through. So again, if we had the time, I would be able to advance a sound argument for the proposition that these things have to be read together, and to that extent, therefore, this is what should apply. But clearly, there is an argument on the other side. I think it's a weaker argument, but they have a right to make it. So I want to read it as a whole, and reading it as a whole, I think that those provisions apply in these other places wherever there is a speaker. And I believe that when we refer to a speaker, it is whoever is performing the function of the speaker.
Right. In fact, the standing order says Mr. Speaker or Speaker includes the whoever is presiding. So
yes.
let's get clarity from you. What happened on Friday night? Does it pass muster? Does it pass constitutional muster for you, or there is something wrong with it? Where, as far as Sam George has narrated to us, the vote was in progress. And if you take the Hansard of that day, it is reported in the record of Parliament that there were 274 members present. Adjoa Safo Fodom Kwabenya was absent with permission.
Absent with permission is equal to absent. So we should be clear about that. Okay, I do think that the original votes, I call it the backbeam vote, which some other people said was invalid and therefore, or unconstitutional and therefore invalid. If it were so, a rescission would not be the cure for it. A rescission is used to remove a valid parliamentary decision. So honestly, I think there are sound arguments to uphold the original vote. However, the rescission itself also looks to me as sound. Now, there will be arguments on each side to detract from them. But I do want to make this point that if you look at the sequencing on the issues concerning quorum, okay, I don't believe the Speaker has a vote and should be counted, except he comes into the chamber not as a Speaker, but as a member of Parliament and registers himself as such, and for some reason has to ascend to the position of a Speaker. To that extent, I would say his presence should be recorded, and then when he ascends to be Speaker, he loses his vote, but his presence is there. And it rhymes with what Sam Job just said. If somebody is in and is part of the quorum, and for some reason has to leave for some reason, you can't take the quorum again. So for me, sequencing in this matter is important, to the extent, therefore, that the count was taken at the time when Joe Wise was Speaker. He could not have been counted. He might be.
Okay. So if that is your argument, what do you say about this? Mathematically, if he, the Deputy Speaker, could not be counted as a member of Parliament, number one, what do you say to his constituents? Have they lost their voice in the House as a result of this? Is that justice to that constituency? And number two, once he is not counted, what will be the number that we can call majority or half of the House? If he is not counted, can there still not be half?
Right. I think we need to understand these things. In all of life, there is cost and benefit to everything. You cannot take the good and not take the bad that comes with it. There is always an opportunity cost. To be appointed for you to rise to the position of a Deputy Speaker is an honor done you, and there will be a price to it. And the price is that whenever you rise to exercise that honor, and I believe they have perks for that. They are giving extra allowances, they are giving extra perks, extra rewards and whatever for that.
Yeah, you're right about that.
The price
even
the
sizes of their offices can tell you.
Oh yes, their vehicles and other things.
Yeah.
So we need to be clear about this. You can't have your cake and eat it. If you don't want the cost that goes with it, and the people of Brekum and whoever is deputy, whatever, should understand that it's an honor done them. And the price is that whenever he acts in that position, he cannot necessarily occupy 2 legal positions. So if you want it, you take it. If you don't take it. Now, having taken it, you cannot approbate and reprobate. So as for that point, let it be clear. The people of Brekum are well represented in Parliament.
Yeah, so then my next issue is, if Joe Wise should not be counted, it is Joe Wise that you count to bring the quorum of half to 138. If he is not counted, he should not be counted. On that occasion, half of Parliament will be what number?
Half of Parliament is 138. There's no question about that. So I said...
But you said he shouldn't be counted. If he's not counted, why are you still talking about 138?
So I'm making the point. Sequencing is important in this matter. If Joe Wise came into the chamber as MP for Brekum, he will be counted as a member. And if he later walked to be speaker, then his quorum will remain, but then he cannot have a vote. So if he was not...
Kofi didn't vote. Let's be clear about something.
Yes, but the counting, I'm saying the counting depends on sequencing. So I've made a point and I repeat. You see, I think strategy was missing in this. I believe that the minority working out was bad strategy. Okay? I believe that the majority working out in the first place was, good strategy, even though it was dishonorable. So strategy is important in this thing. And if they had thought about it, maybe Joe Wise would have come in as MP for Brekum, whatever they do, and then later... Here's the fundamental point. Samson, here is the fundamental point I need you to take away. If Joe Wise came into the room as speaker, and the quorum was taken at the time he was speaker, he could not have been counted. They were not 138, which is why I'm saying that there's an argument to the fact that the rescission of the rescission may have been problematic.
I see. That's very interesting. So practically speaking, you are understood to say that the Gbagbo votes is constitutional or more constitutional and is preferred to the Joe Wise votes, which you think does not pass muster because of his inclusion in the number that makes the precondition to allow for the vote to take place. Yes, Kuku. Yes. What do you say about that?
But I'm not too sure. Maybe I think I will clarify when he gets the opportunity. Whether what happened was done through a motion for rescission, which would have come under Order 93. Is that Order 93.3? Or it was done under Order 51. So there are two different
Explain to us, which orders are you referring to? What is all of this mix
Order
about?
51 says at the time appointed for the purpose, and that Order 53, Order of Business, any member with a prior approval of Mr. Speaker move a motion on a specific matter of urgent public importance. And then the 93.3 says it shall be out of order to attempt to reconsider any specific question upon which the House has come to a conclusion during the current session, except upon a substantive motion for rescission. Now, but the majority went under 51. Am I right?
That's correct.
Yes, and
simply say that an illegality had.
So
what you tabled and which carried was not a motion for rescission.
No, 51.
In parliamentary terms.
In parliamentary terms, you see, rescission would mean that a decision properly taken that you want to rescind.
Yes.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
We came under 51. 51 gives you another ventilation to go in to correct an error, to deal with an illegality. Yeah. So that is why we assess all of that.
Okay.
We looked at
if they had used 93.3, it would be an implicit admission that the previous approval was intact, that it was legal.
Kofi Bento's earlier, commentary or analysis actually took it to be a rescission.
Yes.
Like everybody else, I understand in the media has felt.
Yes.
And therefore, because you are rescinding a decision, it is an implicit admission that something right was done, but you are changing it.
Yes.
Okay.
But
this is not what happened.
Relative to the standing orders, that's not it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, but let's deal with this whole mathematical thing about half and things. See, the 275, in my opinion, I'm not that.
No, but first, do you agree with the Friday vote?
Which one?
The Friday vote.
Yeah, the Friday vote is the...
But being presided vote.
Not at all.
You don't?
Not at all.
Because?
Because they should have been 138 instead of 137. Half, and that's the point I was going to make, that my understanding of what is stated in the Constitution or the Standing Order, when they talk of half of the members of Parliament, it is, the number is 275. That's constant, whether they are in the House or they are not in the House. It's constant. So going to reference the votes and proceedings, and so today there were 276, 233, it's all immaterial. The half of members of Parliament is half of the 275, which is a constant. That's my understanding, and I'll prove it here. So 137, and the answer shows that when the Speaker put the motion on the substantive one, the question on the substantive motion, which is the budget, they were 137. That's what Hansard shows. Okay? Now, let's go back into history a bit, and that's very recent history. Before
as you're going into that history, be minded that there is a legal view by a section that once you walk into Parliament and you sign off as having attended the House, then that number is achieved. It is not momentarily when the vote is going to be put.
No, well,
okay.
That's another school of thought.
All right.
I'm not too sure I appreciate even the rationale behind that school of thought.
Okay.
But the point about 138, when we are talking of 275 being constant, you look at what happened in Parliament 2015, 22nd December. Baldwin, I think, there was the majority leader, if I'm right. And he commented on, there was a vote, 66 ayes and 67 noes. Abstention, nil. If you put this figure together, it's 133. Baldwin argued in Parliament, if I may quote that portion.
Yes, go ahead.
He says, Mr. Speaker, we are 275 members. Half of that is 138. Mr. Speaker, I believe that we are more than 138. So we satisfy the constitutional provision. Therefore, it is incumbent on you, Mr. Speaker, to announce the results. But when this was challenged and they went through the numbers, the tellers counted, it became 133. And that's why I think is it Batunodru or so? So the 133 did not stand. So the vote that they had taken did not also stand. Now, you see, let's go back to 2001. This was Alagiti. There was secret ballot for 4 members of Parliament, ministerial appointees. One, John B. Jaba, Mr. Alex Safu Sedu, Ms. Sophia Honasam, and Mr. Kweku Ajimaimenu. They, at the plenary, secret ballot. And that time, don't forget, there were how many? 200. Members of Parliament were 200 then. Listen to what Alagiti said after the balloting. He says, honorable members, resume your seats. The result of the secret ballot is as follows. Total number of votes cast or persons voting, 163. Don't forget, there were 200, but this is 163 who were present. In accordance with Standing Order 1728, each candidate, therefore, should secure a minimum of 82 votes to be able to pass through. Anyone getting less than 82 will be deemed to be rejected because the provision says a candidate who fails to secure 50% of the votes cast is rejected. 50% is 82 of 163. mark it. 50% is 82 of 163 because there is no half person. So it is 82. And the results are as follows. Now you check, there were 200 members of parliament. That was constant. Those who were present in the House for this vote were 163. Half of it was 81 and a half. But of course, Parliament had adopted the convention of making the half one. So it became 82. The point I'm making is that you don't go and take this because they all came, maybe 275, some went out. You say, oh, no, you don't want. They are talking of the people who were present in the House when the question was put. When the question is being put at that material moment to take a decision, the quorum for, we all know it, I don't have to over-elaborate. 1/3 is the quorum for transacting business. But the half of members of parliament, the normal, if they were 200, it means it's 100. If they are 275, it is 138. They must be there at the material point in time that the question is put.
Okay.
That is my understanding anyway. And based on my study of the parliamentary proceedings, and I'm saying for years, that is how it is.
Okay. So while Kofi endorses the Bagbin votes largely, you don't endorse that?
I don't endorse it because it was 137. They themselves, it's in the Hansard.
Right.
See, if the minority had stayed, and then Osawusu was clear that he's counting, he was being counted, but he's not voting. Okay? So if the minority was there, it would have been 137, 137.
Do you agree that he should count himself?
That is the gray area I've been talking about.
He's a speaker member or member to speaker. Should he count himself?
Good question. He's a member of parliament. He represents a constituency.
That's right.
His constituents would have lost their voice if he is not counted. Even if he doesn't vote, which is a problem with the constitution or the standing orders. I have drifted to the situation where that's a gray area and we should interrogate it. And that's the point I was making earlier. That Kofi, I could see where he was coming from. That this is like education by negative experience. We've gone through a process. That's how you grew a constitution. That's how you grew a democracy. It's clear-cut that there's a conflict of interpretation.
And for example, the logic that if you were a member of parliament and you got elected speaker, you lose your seat.
Yes. See,
then there is a replacement.
I found something, and this is an authoritative book, but I found it, and I've been checking. I'll tell you that I even consulted the first deputy speaker.
Okay.
This is Dakwa and KBISU.
Right.
I'm sure you know their pedigree.
Sure.
Where they talk about the ayes and noes have it, that kind of simple majority, equality of votes, original and casting vote. Then it says, unless it is otherwise provided, all questions brought...
So Dakwa has served all the parliaments since we started this republic.
Yes. It says, unless it is otherwise provided, all questions brought before the House are determined by a majority of the votes of the members present and voting. If the votes of the members are equally divided, the motion is considered lost. The significant part is this. The Speaker has neither an original nor a casting vote.
That's right.
A member presiding has an original but no casting vote. I got confused. So I began to do a search. And indeed, I contacted the first deputy speaker. And his answer was that, yes, when he's a speaker, he loses his original vote, which actually even contradicts this. Okay?
Yes.
Because, yes, it contradicts this. So to be honest, after talking
to... Because Markins sitting here takes the view from his reading of the Constitution that the Speaker, when deputy steps in and is a member of parliament, of course, you must be a member of parliament to get deputy, you maintain your original vote.
Yes.
It's a casting vote that you don't have.
Yes, and this is what Dakwa is saying.
Yes.
Okay, but if I read the Constitution too, I see contradictions. So I said, wow, maybe all this negative experience we are going through is going to lead us to a determination, and I mean a judicial determination, so that we grow our Constitution and grow the democracy.
In 1957, what we have diluted in our standing orders was actually a constitutional provision. And it said that any person, it begins with, you know, the speaker shall have neither an original nor casting vote. Then he went on to say any other person, including the deputy speaker, shall, when presiding in the assembly, have an original vote but no casting vote.
This is what DAPA is.
This was so clear.
Yes, and this is what DAPA is saying
but
here.
If you come,
yes, but there's a little
that's correct.
Yes,
but if you come to our standing orders,
yes,
1093, a deputy speaker or any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote while presiding.
There's a confusion.
My point is, to the extent that we have two phrases being used differently.
Casting.
You have 1092 having a different language. If you read them together, I hold a view that yes, Mr. Speaker, when deputy speaker when presiding will not have his original vote,
but will have
a casting vote because it has not been denying him. In 1092, where the standing order wanted to deny Mr. Speaker both votes, it says so. Here, it limited itself to original vote. So you cannot suggest that reading them together.
Yeah. How do you then marry? How do you marry these two with the fact that in Article 104, when the votes are equal,
it gets lost.
It is lost.
Yeah, but must
somebody exercise a casting vote?
Because of 1093.
But it says the vote is lost.
I agree. But if there is, you see, to the extent that it is Mr. Speaker himself presiding, where there is a tie, the vote is lost. Okay. No doubt about that.
Okay.
But in reading that, be mindful also of 1093, which is now saying that if the deputy speaker is presiding or a member is presiding, he will lose his original vote. It stops there. So with the greatest respect, I hold a view that when any other member is presiding and there's a tie, and to that extent of he not being denied a casting vote, that vote can be exercised.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
Does it make good legal sense that the law deprives you of a vote and yet will allow you to be counted to fulfill the precondition for that vote?
Well, I see a certain conflict inherent in there. And if you leave it to people like us, everybody will subject it to his own interpretation. And that's why I think we have an appropriate forum.
And that is why even the NDC is saying that it's 137 was legal. Because they are defending their 137.
Yes.
You see, they are the same people.
As against 274.
Exactly. They are now saying that, oh, if you look at the vote and proceeding, you have 274 registering as being present for that day's proceedings. Yes.
But that's
the trick here is that when the vote, the question was put, who were physically present, they are saying that even if you register and you leave, you can be counted.
Okay.
That argument.
It's not that.
Okay, hold on. Now, let's go to Sam George. Sam George, we are now interrogating the constitutionality, validity, if you like, legality of the backbone votes and the Joy's votes. We are asking, because you have given us the precedents already, what has gone on. The question that we are asking now is quorum and how quorum was constituted on Tuesday. So quorum on Friday and quorum on Tuesday. What do you say?
All right. Thank you, Samson. And but I plead with you. I need to put one issue clear. It's an issue that's been sent to me by my chief whip, the Honorable Muntaka, to address some comments that were made by the Honorable Afenyo Makin. I didn't sit in leadership meeting. I'm not part of leadership, but Muntaka was in that leadership meeting. First and foremost, Honorable Afenyo Makin has shown bad faith to the negotiations by appearing on TV and speaking, because the leaders had agreed not to do that. Again, there was never an agreement or an understanding to take the final vote on Saturday and not on Friday. That, again, is not true. Again, the Speaker was never any discussion with the minority to give the speaker a safe landing. That can only be, I don't know where Afenyo is getting that from. And again, it is never true that the three leaders were asked to go and look at the text of how Tuesday's sitting was going to be. These are verbatim what the minority chief whip has sent to me. Again, let me state emphatically that it is most unfortunate that the Honorable Afenyo Markin would assume and ascribe ill motive to some of his colleagues by calling us evil beings and all kinds of things. But I leave him to his conscience on that. Now, let's be clear on the issue of quorum. And one last issue I'll speak to is that it is completely incorrect and unfair. You see, they talk about building consensus, but it's most unfortunate that a leader of the House on the NPP side will come and sit on national TV and radio and say that Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagby rushed into the chamber because of the comments of a social media commentator. Most unfortunate. And I saw your shock, Samson, in trying to comprehend that was coming from Afenyo. You offered him the noble route of saying that was an error, but he's still holding on to it. It is most unfortunate. Let me state emphatically, the Speaker adjourned the House for 30 minutes. He afforded the NPP 3 hours before he returned into the chamber. 3 hours for a 30-minute adjournment. So how is it that a man who adjourned for 30 minutes and gave them 3 hours, 2.5 more hours, came back into the chamber because of Kevin Taylor? And I think that Honorable Afenyo Markin should do himself a lot of good by apologizing to the Speaker for such comments, very unbecoming of a leader of the House. Now, again, the attempt to pitch us against the Honorable Haruna Idrisu or the caucus against is not correct. It's unfortunate. The NDC and the NPP have absolutely no agreement on the E-levy. If we had time for the E-levy, I would state to you what the NDC's counter proposal is on the E-levy. We have a solid proposal for the for a digital tax, not an E-levy.
Okay.
A digital tax that benefit from.
So I beg you, that is a subject. That's a subject we will end the show with.
Okay,
on where your position is. Yes.
Okay. Now, on the Batinoduro case that was mentioned by Uncle Kweku Baku, in counting the persons in the House that day, Batinoduro did not count himself for quorum or to determine the number because he was presiding. That's one thing they conveniently lead out when they reference the Batinoduro case. Again, when you look at the Alajete ruling that he referenced on quorum, it actually supports the NDC's position. Because at that time, quorum in that House, or if you wanted to go by Article 104 of the Constitution and look at what would determine present and vote in half of the House, that would be 100. But if you read Alajete's ruling, which Uncle Kubaku just read, he did not say he was looking for 100. He said he was looking for 83, which was half, or 82, which was half of the 163 that was available, which tells you that there are two figures you look out for. You look out first, have you formed half of the members of the House? And that is fixed. I agree with Uncle Kweku Baku on that. It is 138 because it is 137.5. So 275, half of it is 138. On Friday, did you have 138 members or more in the House? The vote and proceedings, and that's why Uncle Kweku gets it wrong. The vote and proceedings tells you those who were present in the House.
No. That's not what the Constitution
it is not those who were voting. The vote and proceedings does not tell you the number of persons. Doesn't give you, when it lists the members, it is members present in the House, not members present for voting. That is how come. When you look at the Tuesday votes and proceedings, it records only 138, which we believe again was an error. Because you shouldn't have recorded the Honorable Joseph Osei, because at that time he was not present as a member of Parliament. But you had 274 members present in the House. Did you meet the threshold of 138? Yes, we did. Then the next question, and that is where Alajete spoke about the 82. That's what Uncle Kweku doesn't seem to appreciate from my perspective, respectfully. That when he spoke about the 82, it is now half of the persons who are present and voting. So when you read 104, it talks of half of members of Parliament and then talks of majority of present and voting. So there are two legs. So half of the Alajete Parliament will be 100. Yes. But Alajete was not looking for 100 persons. He was looking for half of present and voting. But before you can go into present and voting, you must first and foremost have half of members of the House. So Alajete could then look at the possibility of 82. He could look at the possibility of having 82 members because already he had 163 in the chamber, which complied with the 100 threshold. And that's why we are saying that, look, yes, I get it. People say the people of the choir will refuse the vote. Well, I got voted by the people of Ningo Pram Pram, just the same way Honorable Joseph got voted by the people of the choir. However, I didn't get a free BMW because I'm not speaker. There are benefits he gets for being speaker. When projects are going to be given to constituencies, the speaker is not a member of parliament, but the two deputy speakers get prior consideration over their colleague members who were equally voted like them. So there's benefit to the people of Bekwai that the people of Ningo Pram Pram do not get by virtue of the fact that I am not speaker. The same way there's benefit that goes to leadership in the house that ordinary members do not get. So you cannot approbate and reprobate. If he's comfortable getting the benefit of being a deputy speaker and presiding over the house, you can then not expect that there will be no cost to pay for it.
Right.
So on Tuesday, something I end here. On Tuesday, what happened in the house was you had 137 members of parliament and a presiding member. Now, the standing orders of parliament, and I'll just read that. If I read order, I think it's order 2.
What's going on?
It does interpretation for us on who is a speaker. It says, sorry, that's order 7, standing order 7. Speaker or Mr. Speaker. And this is where the distinction is. The speaker himself is referred to as speaker. But most times we refer to him also as Mr. Speaker, or to the two deputies as Mr. Speaker. Speaker or Mr. Speaker includes a member presiding at a sitting. So once Mr. Joseph was presiding at that meeting, he could not have been counted. And my simple question to Uncle Kweku and very finally is, how do you say that I cannot take part in a vote? I am not qualified to take part in a vote. But to have that vote, you count me to create a qualification for that vote. I mean, it doesn't follow any logic whatsoever. And so I would just want to say that, look, this whole thing has been gotten wrong. And even when they say they've approved the budget, something, can you ask the Honorable Afeni Martin what budgets they have approved and why have we not started moving on estimates? You claim you're approving a budget with concessions. What concessions? Something. As a senior journalist, do you know what concessions have been approved? If they say the 2022 budget has been approved with concessions, what are those concessions? Was anything tabled before the House? No. It remains in the head of the finance minister. Parliament is a house of records. Uncle Kweku would love to know what those concessions are. I would want to know what those concessions are.
Okay.
But right now we are at a loss.
Look, that's
okay. Interesting. Yes, quickly.
You know what? It's because there's not enough mutual goodwill. Otherwise, this point of concessions, which I am aware, both sides agreed on something. I'm aware. This thing about 1% that they are now denying, is the truth is that they did. See, even Muntakai's statement, read it carefully. He talks somewhere of their proposal. I put it somewhere here. Proposal for revision. It's not rejection. The operative word, revision, not rejection. You are in negotiating. And out there, all we hear is like a complete rejection of the E-levy. Your minority leader goes to say something which created a little bit of confusion, at least in the minds of the NDC support base. Muntaka issues a statement. Read that statement carefully and check the word revision, that they had a proposal for the revision of the E-levy. He didn't say rejection of the E-levy, okay? But, you know, it is clear to me, I don't want us to go through reading too much of this, but this December 22nd, 2015 Hansard, Doe Ajawo came in and established the fact that if you are talking of half of the members of parliament, it is 275. Not what is captured here for a day. That 275, I insist, is constant. So you take half of it, it's 138. And when they did that counting that day, they were 133. So Doe Ajawo made it clear that they have a constitutional problem. See, It says yes, it did. In fact, it says there is a quorum to do business. Yes. That is 1/3 of the House, and there's a quorum to take a decision. So we need to draw a distinction between the quorum to do business and the quorum to take a decision. The quorum to take a decision is regulated by Article 1041. Okay, and you can go on and quote it. Then he makes the point. The fundamental question is that the time that the vote was taken, did we have at least half of the honorable members present? It is a constitutional issue which has been captured in Standing Order 1091 of our standing orders. If we go by the results of the head count, by adding 67 to 66, we will get 133. Therefore, there's a serious constitutional issue there. So at the time that the votes were taken, this House lacked the legal, in fact, the constitutional capacity to take a decision. That is not something in dispute.
All right. So what I'm going to come back and ask Sam George to explain to us the statement that was issued under the hand of Muntaka Mubarak, the minority whip, for and on behalf of the NDC caucus in Parliament about the levy, what he makes of the repetition of the word suspension. That's what you are asking for. You said the levy is regressive, punitive, draconian, and it must be suspended. That, for me, doesn't look like scrapping or abandoning it completely. And then in that same statement, he continues to talk about he says that surprisingly, despite the good faith demonstrated by the NDC team, recognizing the importance of the budget to the economy, business and household, the government side outrightly rejected our proposal for a revision of the E-levy, leading to breakdown of discussions. So there was an agreement for a revision. What was that about? Is a revision the same as calling for a complete scrap or abandonment? We will return to have you speak to that issue, and then we proceed. But let me read these two very important messages that I have gotten from senior lawyers on this question. And you have heard Clara speak on this issue and takes a view that sits with the views that Afenyo and his team will take on the question of the speaker counting himself. And except that casting vote, yes, I think the two of you agree on that. She says that the position of deputy speaker comes with an original vote because he's an MP. It does not come with a casting vote unless otherwise provided. What he, deputy speaker, can retain or lose is his original vote. He cannot retain or lose a casting vote because the position of deputy speaker does not come with any such casting vote. Did I get that? I'll read that the second time. That the position of the deputy speaker comes with an original vote because he is an MP. It does not come with a casting vote unless otherwise provided. Of course, we have seen in the Constitution which says he doesn't have an original vote. What he, the deputy speaker, can retain or lose is his original vote. He cannot retain or lose a casting vote because the position of deputy speaker does not come with any such casting vote. It is, okay, does not come with any such casting vote. Now, I have one other, I said I have two to read to you. This is a very senior lawyer, doesn't have his I don't have his permission to mention his name. He says, please tell Afenyo that Order 109 of their standing orders does not give the deputy speaker presiding a casting vote. Only the Constitution can give a casting vote. And if you read the Constitution 104, it says the speaker does not have casting or original vote. All right. So he says only the Constitution can give a casting vote. It doesn't. A casting vote is given in express words and not by implication. The principle is that what is expressed excludes what is not expressed, or the alternative. And this is a rule that lawyers are familiar with for interpretation. It's called the expressio juris rule. At the point when votes are counted and there is an equality of votes, the motion is lost immediately. There is no room thereafter for the presiding deputy speaker to now revive the dead motion and then effect an alleged casting vote. So that's the position that he also expresses. And perhaps the very last one, Justice Ramsay says that if you read the 1957 Constitution, which was in the express terms in which I read it, it denied the deputy both, it gave the deputy a certain power. He says to the extent that in our new Constitution, we have removed that sort of language, then nobody can say that he has the right or voting powers that we are trying to ascribe to him. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back. Yes, Kuku, quickly.
I find it intriguing that people will suggest that because the office of a deputy speaker, who is an MP, comes with certain benefits, that should undermine the right of his constituents to be heard, especially in terms of voting, which is a fundamental right. It's intriguing. And I really would want to be educated more on that.
Well, you heard Kofi Bento.
I'm convinced.
Yeah. And Sam George reinforces that.
I'm not convinced.
Because you are deputy, benefits, the things you get, not everybody
so
gets.
So the benefit should take away my constituents' right?
Okay.
What kind of argument is that? Constitutionally, then it must be tested.
Okay. All right. In that case, why is it that you lose your seat if you are elected as speaker and you are a member of parliament?
No, but then you've lost your seat. You've gone for a ministerial appointment. You can't. Is that not a point?
Why do you lose it if you can keep and still do the job of a speaker?
No, I don't get your drift.
Why is it that when we give you the job of a speaker as a sitting MP,
yes,
you lose that job as MP?
Yes, but then there will be a new MP. There will be a by-election.
So let's not have a by-election. So you are speaker and still keep your MP.
That will make sense.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
The Constitution denying the speaker his original and casting votes. That reference is made to the speaker.
Yes. And your standing order says, Mr. Speaker is who? Includes deputy.
But the standing order
anyone's presiding.
The Constitution.
That's right.
You see, the person who disagreed with me was my professor.
Okay.
And I hold him in high esteem.
Okay, so you know where the message is from. Thank you.
I know he sent it.
I didn't know.
However, how he sent it.
All right.
But I wouldn't want to disagree with him publicly. But say, with the greatest respect, 109 first makes reference to the speaker. Forget about the definition or interpretation at Order 7. Here, it is referring to Mr. Speaker. Then 3, it talks about Deputy Speaker. Now, you are talking about, you said, the express mention of one excludes the others not mentioned. Is that correct? Now, so when you expressly state that he doesn't have original votes, this is what it says. A deputy speaker or any other member presiding shall not retain his original vote whilst presiding. It stops there. What is the meaning of this?
Really?
No, Thank you. Tell me that it also means his casting vote is denying him.
Right.
But why didn't the same language...
Says he agrees with
why
your
didn't
view
they repeat the same language in 2?
Bento's view. He agrees, she agrees with that. Now, I said I was taking that break right there. Let me read Kojo Asante of the CDD's view before we proceed. He says that, so in these discussions, we should ask ourselves why a certain rule was written. What is the parliamentary democratic objective that is being pursued? So why do we have quorum? And why the how for a question? is to achieve some legitimacy or ensure, is it to achieve some legitimacy or ensure representation? It helps us to assess whether the rule gives effect to the objective and helps to suggest changes if it does not. Also, remember, our parliament is different from the typical Western democracies where often a speaker or president of the assembly is a member of parliament. So the voting privileges tend to be different. Speaker Pelosi or Speaker of the British Parliament are all members of the assembly. Key for me is that when all is done, we do the necessary reforms. That is progressive.
Samson, let me ask something.
Nothing changes, and we keep having problems.
If you look at Eskin
all right.
If you read Eskin the British Parliament, the Speaker is a member of Parliament. He doesn't retain original vote, but he has a casting vote.
But that's a different situation. Your constitution is explicit.
I want to
parity of reasoning. Sorry, let's take a break here. We'll be right back.
The Deputy Speaker is a member of Parliament. He is a member of Parliament.
You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis show. This it's brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Waylead Properties, home is where one starts. Heaven mosquito spray and coil, pleasant on humans, tough nightmare on insects. And Napa Foods, it is tasty. DBS Industries, we are truly your roof experts. Robert & Sons Limited Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care services provider. Rehoboth Properties, quality housing for all. Fabrimental, your partner in steel. Trasaco Fast Floors, Trasaco Fast Floors, stronger, faster, and affordable. And Cap Farm Legends Nights. I'm sure you're aware of that. Is going to be very interesting. So quick on some of your messages. Emmanuel J. Bequin says that the revelation that the whole Speaker of Ghana's Parliament expected to lead in building consensus on the budget situation was rather concerned about a so-called journalist who only spews gibberish, jokes and insults is disappointing. Well, as you have heard, the Minority Chief Whip seeks to deny that also. This one from AK, is it Akosia? Is that how you spell Akosia? AQCO. Okay, once these two groups are done, they should let us know. They should let us know why, because we are sick and tired of this emotional roller coaster they are putting Ghanaians through. Meanwhile, they already know the decisions they have made indoors. So I cannot come and kill myself about this brouhaha. Jake Kwete says, can the substantive Speaker of Parliament take the seat and reverse the approval of the budget, and what could be the aftermath effect? That's a question you're asking me. Nana Dollar says there are no truths, only perspectives, no facts, only accounts. A very long and hard road. God save Mother Ghana. Mohib Dabangu says that if it's about putting house in order, the majority MPP side need that done, the minority. Agama Lizard says the way this Ghana is going there, I tell you, everyone fear his or her life. I tell you. Then Kea Mofa says, so if Bagwing and Joe Wise vote were all right, why is the majority group saying, okay, so you are not following the issue? They haven't, none of them have voted. Bagwing doesn't actually have a vote. This is from Abdul. He says, we voted for a government to solve our problems, but now the government has become the problem to be solved. Adote Akai says, so when can politicians be trusted? They are always saying respectfully for the records and the like, but they spew lies back and forth. I'm very disappointed because I don't see the fights of the ordinary Ghanaian. Gifty Andrew Appiah, okay, she says that, so how can we clear this grey area of being Deputy Speaker of Parliament, acting in the absence of the Speaker, and still represent your constituents? Kukubaku say, go to court, because that's where we can clear it. Okay, I'll pause here. Charles Rekubrobe, Dr. Charles Rekubrobe says, when it is very clear, it is not very clear. Go to courts. Newsfile. Thank you. Now, my question to Sam George on the E-levy. Let's listen to Haruna, which issue they have issued a statement to clarify.
I'm aware that there is ongoing controversy about E-levy, and my caution to government is that don't kill the hen that lays the golden egg. We are aware that the digital economy is doing pretty well. It has facilitated the development of a digital economy, but don't overburden and overtax the telecom entities. We fear for double taxation because we already have communication service tax. And on E-levy, a week ago, I was no, we won't accept E-levy. But having listened to officials in government, including the Minister of Finance and Charles Edubuahin, I was convinced to accept a departure from my original law to accepting a 1% E-levy for the good of the Ghanaian people. And therefore, if government is able to make overtures and reach out and say that I want to peg the electronic levy at 1%, I'll have a difficulty convincing my constituency, but I take full responsibility because that should be our contribution to fiscal consolidation and our contribution to ensuring that the economy doesn't collapse on any of us going into the future.
Sam George, we have only 4 minutes left. In a minute, how do you reconcile this with a statement issued? Hello?
Of an E-levy in whatever form or shape. We believe that it should be suspended, and we believe that there should be better consultation with stakeholders and the country as a whole. At this point in time, it is not the way to go. And let's be clear, the NDC has a superior alternative. We have a digital economy on our mind, and we know how to tax it. France, India, Russia have done it. They have put the tax on businesses that benefit of the digital economy and not the persons who are the drivers of the digital economy. And so let me repeat without equivocation, and I say this after speaking with my leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, and the caucus, the NDC's position, we have absolutely no agreement. And let's be clear, Samson, it is not the position of the NDC or the minority to impose taxes. It is the duty of the NPP. And which forms government. So when the Honorable Afenyo Martin says this is NDC NPP, it is clear in the Constitution.
So what you are seeking is a reduction. What you are seeking is a reduction on the percentage.
A reduction to zero.
A reduction to zero.
Yes, we are saying that we believe, and look, the stakeholders themselves are saying this. That's something. I play in this space.
Haruna says 1%. Haruna says 1%, and you say zero. How do you reconcile that?
And on the tape you played, that was a program with the Chamber of Telcos. He says that he's had compelling arguments. Have we all not had compelling arguments from ESA for 0.5%? So there are several compelling arguments that have been made. Compelling arguments for 1%, compelling arguments for 1.75%.
That's your leader. That's your leader. He says 1%.
We support. The statement that was issued yesterday, signed by the Honorable Muntaka Mubarak, was on the express instructions of Honorable Haruna Idrisu. And that states our caucus position.
All right,
the position
thank
of
you.
the NDC.
Thank you.
We are against it. But let me state one thing. I'm sure this is my last bite. I beg you, 30 seconds. Honorable Afenyo Martin said that we have lost leadership. I leave it to the judgment of the Ghanaian people. He, as the deputy majority leader, followed an 11-month-old MP to storm out of the chamber on Friday. Show me who has lost leadership.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Kweku, yes, we have some 30 seconds. Tarzan and others say this has to go to court.
I agree.
Tarzan actually say it's at this juncture, only the Supreme Court can restore order to Parliament. I forgot about Kofi Bento. But Kofi, how do we say that we should go to Supreme Court when these politicians, See the way they bastardize the court, as if everybody in the court is tied to someone's apron strings. Unless a judgment is made in their favor, the judgment is colored. How do you resolve things this way?
We have all agreed that the Supreme Court is where the matters will end. Yeah. So we should go to the Supreme Court because nobody will take anybody's side. And so let me make this point, it's very important. A lot of the important discussion about E-levy has not even come out because we're leaving the politicians to fight. Indeed, there is an amount of 241 million cedis earmarked to be spent to collect E-levy. None of it makes sense. We have not jumped into this argument yet because the time is just not there. But I can't understand how anybody needs $40 million to go and collect taxes, which are already part of an electronic system.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, but this is where we draw the curtains. My guests are Fenyo Marking, Kuku Bako, Bak, Kofi Bento, and you also heard Samuel George. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. My outfit, as always, is by Habil Scooter. You can call them 0200 84 1988. Have a good afternoon.